just going to do it. I'll just record on.
Like, how dare you, Dean? Stop.
Sorry?
Just getting so annoyed with you. Like, stop using our recording.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So have you both got the so we've got this little matrix where we're going to put our start and end frames for episodes where the baby looks to the puppet. Okay, so if we want basically, we're going to look through every row and we're going to see the difference when the difference becomes 1, and we're going to put that in a column, and then when a difference becomes -1, we're going to put that in a column. Any ideas of how we might do this? Types of loops we're going to need, or other types of statements?
For and if statements.
Yeah, I think for and if. Yeah. So what are we going to? Let me just open up this. So what are we going to loop through? What are we going through? What's our range?
Our range is matrix. Row 1 to length or end.
Matrix 1 to end, did you say?
Yeah, or length. I can't remember. I know that you can do 1 or 2.
You can do end. Remember, that's a really nice way to check. So if you just want to see if end works, you can just type matrix end, and that's the value. So when we know that we can put there end, and that's the value.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's quite nice. So the other thing though you said was length, right? So length matrix is that, which is the same numbers, but you would have to write to length matrix again, like this. But obviously it's a lot easier just to put end. Right? Okay, that's going to go from the numbers 1 to 19669. What is going to be the issue? Because we're just looking ahead, we're going to be checking for every row. We're going to be looking at the difference between this one and the next one. Yeah. So what's our issue going to be?
Do we have to do -1 somewhere along the line, like when it gets to the end?
It would be here. You would go there, because then when you do get to the end, it's going to get here and compare that with this one, and that's it. It'll stop. I'm actually going to though suggest, and this will become clearer maybe later on, I'm going to suggest we do 2 until the end, and then we look back. So actually we go this one, the difference. We can do it either way, but basically, if you want the start frame, if we start, and imagine this row 2 was actually let's go down to 1 where it actually is a 1. Okay, so the issue, what will happen if this is 1 and -1? What will happen is at 4208, we're going to look between 4208 and 4209, and yes, it's found a difference of 1. But the value of row is still going to be 4208. So that's not the start frame, right? The start frame is 4209. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So either, there's 2 options. Either we do keep it like this, which probably is a bit neater, but then we will always print into our table, we're going to print row +1. Does that make sense? Because we actually want the start frame to be 4209, not 4208. We could do that. The other option is you start at 2, you go just to the end, and you look backwards. So it gets 4209, and it would look at the difference between that plus the previous, and then it would print row. But I don't know what you got. I don't know. I think this feels more logical because it's like moving forward in my head. Yeah. Should we go?
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense, right? Like what that's gonna. Okay, nice. Okay, so we've got 4 loop. Let's just put the end in. So we've got an end that's ready to go. Okay, so for every row, what are we going to check?
The difference of.
If the difference.
Matrix.
Yeah, the difference of matrix.
Row plus row to like the next row +1.
Row So the next row, how do you do next row?
Row plus 1.
Row plus 1.
Right.
We need to put a column in as well here, by the way. So we could put a 1 in here for the column. Another option, if you want to change this later, is we could do something like lead column or lead col, and we could have follow col. And then later, if you want to edit these, so we could say, okay, the baby's leading. So we want column 1 is going to be the lead for now, and column 8 is going to be the follow. Yeah? And then we can put in here, instead of putting 1, because there's going to be loads of 1s and 8s throughout this. But if we actually call it like the leader one, it means if you want to change it later, you literally have to change these 2 numbers instead.
Yeah.
Yeah? So I'm going to just write set leader and follower columns for look to puppet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just to say, yeah, that's then something you can edit. You know, you just switch those around. So if the difference between matrix row and matrix row plus 1 in the leader column
is 1 equals
is
1.
1, I think it's just a comma, isn't it? Is 1.
Then
do what?
Post in episode frames.
Mm-hmm.
Print in episode
where's
frames.
it going? Where's it going in episode frames?
Row.
It's a tricky one, but I don't know if we've done this. We might have done this before.
It's going in row 1, column 1, but it's not doing that.
I think there is a better way to do this, but it's end plus 1. So you're adding it to whatever's the current end row. You're just adding another row. And yeah, column 1 you said, right?
Yeah.
What are we adding? What value are we putting in there?
The row plus 1.
Row plus 1. Okay. So and there's the, so sorry, let me just finish that. So yeah, so we're checking if it changes to 1. We're also checking if it changes to what's the other thing we're checking?
0.
We are checking 0. Can we leave that? I think we can leave it. So what we do, I mean, so for the purposes of putting stuff in here, you know, episode frame. So this column is the start and this is the end, right? So if the difference is plus 1, it's going to go in. Something's going to go into column 1, the start frame. How do we determine if something's going to go in the end frame? What's the difference? What are we looking for when it ends? When does the baby stop looking at an object? How do we know that?
Well, go to.
Sorry.
It'll go to -1.
Yeah, it goes to -1. So we're looking then we're going to look for the difference here, right, where it goes -1. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Makes sense. So how do we do? So like, imagine we're just like looking through a row. So imagine we've arrived at row 4253. We've got here. It's got here in our loop, in this loop, and it's checked first. It's checked, is the difference of row and row 1 in this column, is it 1? And the answer is no, right? It's not 1. It's -1. So it's not 1. So it's actually not going to do this, which is great. We don't want it to do this. How do we specify that we want it to also check for -1?
Can we not just do if the difference is equals to -1? Can you not just write that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that should be. Let's just copy. I'll just copy all this. Actually, let's just copy all of that. So yeah, so if it equals -1, then what do you need to change in the next row? Episode frames. So it's going into the. Ooh, interesting. That's actually going to give us an issue.
Now it's going into row 1, column 2, and then it'll need to.
Yeah, this actually only needs to go into the end. This actually only needs to go into the end row, this one, because this first bit is always going to create the new row, if that makes sense, because you're always going to look first at the object before. So this can only happen once this has happened.
Yeah.
So if you imagine, control this. So imagine it's done this so far. So imagine it found there was one that started here, one that ended here, and then it's got to row 4100 and it's found a difference of 1, so it's put this in. When it then checks after that, it's going to keep running through the rows until it finds a -1. If we put that in end +1 in column 2, it's going to come down, it's going to go into here. But we actually want it just to go in here, so it can actually go into the end row. Does that make sense? Because the end row at this point is where we want it to go. Whereas when it's putting the start frames, we need to create a new row. Does that make sense? But for the when it comes off the episode and it's -1, we want it to go here. So it's just the end row, because that row, this has created the row and we want it to go in here. Does that make sense? Does end and n+1 make sense as a concept? So like currently in here, end, so if I look at episode frames end, the value of end in here is cut. Oh, I spelled it wrong, didn't I? So the value of episode frames and that's not right. Why is that 0? Maybe it's not. No, why is that 0? I don't know. Let's just leave that for now anyway. This is, yeah. So anyway, this one is going to go into the end row in the second column. I don't know why that is. Yeah, like that. I'm going to change this back as well. Okay, so we don't do ifs like this, right? So we've kind of got, at the moment here, we've got 2 ifs like within each other, which you don't do that. So first you check this, and if that isn't the case, then we'll also check this. How do we do that? Do you remember how we also check something else? Yeah, we do else if. Oh, else if. And then we can actually, basically you said if it's 0, so if it's 0, we actually just want it to move on to the next row, right? So like, we're not going to do anything, we're just going to move on. So it will only do things, it will only do these 2 things if these conditions are met.
Do we need another end?
I've put one in, yeah, you do need another one, yeah. So you need one, so you only need you need one for the ifs, for where the if starts and the if ends, not the else.
Okay.
Yeah, that just sits within the if.
Okay.
And then for the end. So that, let's see if it works. Hang on. At least one end is missing. What? Oh, right. At least one end is missing. Am I missing it? Wait, is else if one word? Sorry, else if is one. Is else if one word? Hang on. Just had a blank. Else if's one word, sorry. Index position, arrange. Oh, God, here we go. No, the issues come in.
Is that because we're just doing thingy rather than equals to 1? You know, we've got like it just doesn't.
Yeah, is that what we did? I can't remember. Let me just, yeah.
Let me just see before if we did an equals to.
Oh, is that what we did?
What session was it?
Yeah, you're right, of course. Yeah. It's got to be equals, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So you've got 2 of them equals 1. It might be double. Is it double equals?
Double equals.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. because we're looking for, yeah, so when you're checking these things, it's always doubles, double equals. Ah.
Doesn't like that double equals on that one.
Oh, hang on, that should be -1, but
doesn't like -1.
Still the issue in the first one.
I have no issue with the first one. Oh, I have no issue with the first one, Dean. I think only because I have put it inside the bracket. So where you have the bracket just before to lead col, then I have one bracket there and then have one bracket afterwards. I'm not sure if that's right or not, but.
Hang on, let me see. So if I make, let me just go down to, so the way I would check this is I'd go to like one of these instances like this, and I'd say, okay, let's make row equals 4208. And let's make lead column equal 1. So now they come into here. So like lead column is 1, row is 4208. And now we can check this. And it is 1. Array indices must be positive messages, a lot of values. Oh god. Right. Row's at 0. Why is row at 0? Matrix 1. Sorry, guys, what's that? Sorry, I know what we've done. Sorry, we're not going. We're sorry. This is the for loop that's wrong. Sorry, it's the for loop that's wrong. We haven't really specified anything here. So we need to go from the number 1 until
end -1.
end of the matrix -1, yeah. Until matrix end -1. And then get rid of that. Okay, there we go. Nice. Nice. 3.5 is check it. 3.5.
I like how it doesn't give you any like specific details. It just gives you some weird error.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, has it worked?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's much quicker than going through by hand, isn't it?
This is only step 1, isn't it? We've now got to look. Now we're going to go through each of these as well. This is cool. No, this is a good way to do it. I think it's more visual like this. Let's just, okay, so one thing we've got to do at the end here. Does anyone remember how to delete a row? Like, how would we create delete that row? We're not doing anything with deletion. We're more like making it blank. We're making it a blank row. Do you remember how to do that? Like, sorry, I mean, because of the first one, you see we got 0, we got like 0 and 0. That's because we started it with the row of zeros and then we've added to n+1. So that's why. I think we've done it once before, but
no, we had to put in. What did we put in for it?
yeah. It's only a little thing.
I think it's the thing we did last time, wasn't it?
Sorry?
We did it last time,
Maybe
didn't
we did it last time.
we?
No, we didn't.
Do you remember?
It's just a little thing. So how would you select all the columns for row 1 in that matrix? What would you type?
Episode frames.
Episode frames. What's that? Bexy, how'd you do the first column? How'd you do the first row and all columns?
1, 1.
Or if you want all columns instead of just the first column.
Oh, set to end. Does it work on columns as well?
We haven't done for a long time actually. Yes, but
Oh, you do the colon, don't you? Yeah.
So we set that as, and it's we're going to create an array because there's 2 values here. We create an empty array basically. And arrays are done with square brackets, so it's that basically. It's just an empty square brackets, and it will just delete that. It basically just deletes the row. Empty set. Okay. Right. Now for the fun part. Yeah. Right. So what we've got to loop through now, we're looping through some other stuff. We got some nice ranges here. So we got array. So let's just imagine we're just going to do row 1. Okay, imagine this thing only had this first row. Okay, so this is our 1 episode where the baby has looked to the puppet. So how are we gonna? We want to loop through these row numbers in matrix, right? And check something. Does that make sense?
So, yeah, do we want to check whether the stranger is looking at the toy at the same time?
Yeah, exactly.
That the episode frame, like the row that is in that position, look at that and then see if that is a 0. And if it is, then loop through to the next number in that matrix row.
Yeah.
In the column, the next column. See between there if there's a difference in.
Yeah. If there's a difference.
Then put that in a.
We can do, or you can just immediately work out that frame minus the start frame, and you've got your time lag, and put that somewhere. I'd probably do that. There's no need to put the frame numbers. I think you could do if you want to store the mum. No, I just don't think you need to. I think it's not as obvious a thing when you look back at it later.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put, by the way, just here, just a little note, a little comment here to say create matrix with start and end frame numbers for look to puppet. Or populate framework, because we've already created populate matrix. Yeah. Yeah. Just so we know what that is, because we're going to start something different here. Okay, so we're going to go. So a few ideas in there. Okay, so we're gonna loop through. We're going to loop through, but we're only going to loop through if, I think someone said it, didn't they? Like if the mum
starts on 0.
The mum is 0. So actually we can wrap this whole loop through around an if statement, because if the mum is already with a 1, we don't actually need to bother checking this. Yeah, because we know the mum started it. Does that make sense? So if the mum is already at a 1 in that first row, so if we do an if, and then we're going to put a whole loop inside this thing. So how are we going to look at the mums? So basically, yeah, if the mum is a 0, then we continue, right?
in the matrix.
So yeah, we're going to look in the matrix. Which row and column in the matrix?
We're looking in the follow col.
So if matrix, yes, it's going to be the follow col. Which row?
The row is going to be the matrix. Oh, the episode frames.
Episode frames, which row and column?
1.
1.
So 1 to end.
1. It's just this one. We're just going to look at this one, right? So this, we're just going to look at if this number. So row 1, column 1. We're just going to look at row. So we're just going to do this first row for now, and then we'll edit and add in, because we're going to have to loop through all of these as well, which is going to loop around all of this that we're doing. So this one, we're going to just do number 1. So if matrix row number 3500, which is episode frames 1-1. So if 3500, column 8 in matrix, our main matrix, is 0, then we can continue, right? And we can do stuff. Otherwise, it's just not going to do it. It's going to ignore this. Let's just see if that one actually is. Hopefully it will give us something. So here, for example, 3500 and the mum. Okay, so it's the one. That's fine, because it should give us a 50th of a second. Okay, so that's fine.
I was going to say, would there be an issue if they both look at the exact same time, like at the exact same frame? Like who actually is the leader or follower of that situation?
Yeah, I mean, in this, if we're just looking at average times for the mum to follow a baby lead, then I guess it's correct, right?
Doesn't matter.
It's not technically a baby lead. Well, it is, isn't it? They've led, but the mum's also led.
Yeah, they're both looking at the exact same moment.
That's that Spider-Man meme that's like.
Yeah, there probably is a case for it being 0, isn't there? So you could also, I mean, you could do a check.
Yeah.
if that plus the previous minus the previous one is -1, and yeah, allow it. It's unlikely to happen, isn't it? But we can add it later. Let's add it later, because that's just. You're right, though. It's just right? You've got it. It is a lead. It is a lead, but the mum looked instantly. So if you're averaging out, I guess you want to add it as an extra lead, but it's a 0 in terms of time. So, well, no, because the mum's not reacting to it. So do you want to count it as mum follow? Here we're analysing mum.
I'm kind of thinking they might have looked at the exact same time. It might have just been like when it was coded, it was just like coded one frame later than it should have been.
That's true.
That's true. The Isaac can always be like, it could have been there.
But the thing is, so here you're actually looking at mum follow times, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's technically not really a mum follow, is it? It's also a mum lead if they look at the same time. All right. Anyway, let's. It's interesting because this is going to bring down the average massively of the reaction time. So you might actually, I don't know, we might want to build something in where it actually makes sure that the next 5 frames are not 1s or something. But for now, let's go with this. Okay, so if the mum's column is 0, then we're going to start looping through these 2 numbers, these 2 rows. Yeah, so from 3, we're going to start going between 3500 up to row 3697 in the matrix, because that's where all the 1s are. Until what?
It goes to -1. Oh,
until
them 2 numbers.
Sorry. Until we're going to keep going across here until what happens? Oh, sorry. Yeah, until what happens?
Till it's the end of the 1s or the end of the infant look.
End of the infant look.
So yeah, we know it's gonna. So it will eventually get to the end of the infant look. But what do we want to log? What are we logging here? What are we looking for?
Oh, the number when it changes to 1.
In whose column? In which column?
In column 8.
Yeah. So we're looking if the mum in this range, because we know this is the start and end of the episode where the baby's looking. we're going through that until the mum turns to a 1. And then we're taking that. And then we're stopping looking through that episode. Although the mum could look away and then back. The mum could easily look away and back in that episode, couldn't they?
Yeah. And then what does that count as? Like 2?
Oh no, but that was their time. That is the time it took them to look, right? So that's actually what you want. So this is, yeah, you're right. That's fine, isn't it? Okay, so yeah, so we're going to look through until this happens, and then once it does, we'll jump onto the next. We're done, basically.
Yeah.
And if it's 0, then it's never going to give us anything. So this like notion of until something happens, this is the while loop that we showed earlier. So it's like while something isn't the case, keep going, and then when it is the case, do this. Like when it ends, do this. Yeah. You could do a for loop as well and just look through everyone and just print the one. No, because actually that kind of raises the issue. Because if you did a for loop and just looked for every time the difference went to 1, and the mum's column, you might have more than one instance because it did look away and look back and look away and look back. But with the while loop, it will stop at the first one, which I think is probably what you want here. It will literally just go down until, so while the difference is 0, or while the difference is not 1, it will go down and then it will, stop. So if we do like while, let's put in the while loop, then while the difference on the mum's one is not, is not 1. So while, how do we reference this difference? We've got a few variables and things here. I'm tempted to give these some. I'm tempted to like call like a start frame, an end frame. I think it's going to be easier because I think we can probably change stuff later. So yeah, it'll just make things easier later on. We could go without it, but yeah. Even this is going to change later. That's fine. So it starts at 1-1 and it ends in row 1, column 2 currently, right? That's the end. So if instead of this, then we can just say if the start frame. If the start frame, that's our row number. So that's our row number. So if the start frame of episode frame, so if row 3500 in the following column is 0, then we're going to do this. Does that make sense? So while, so we need to, yeah. So while the difference, while the difference
in matrix.
Matrix from which row?
The start frame row.
Mm-hmm. And so yeah, the difference between the start frame row and which row?
End frame row.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to do the start. We're just looking for the difference between 2 rows, aren't we?
Oh, the next one, the start frame plus 1.
So the difference between start frame and start frame plus 1. For which column?
The follow column.
Follow column. We've got 2 brackets there. We'll do is not equal to 1. Wow. Then we need to move on to the next.
So the difference is
so we need to make the start frame basically is going to go up. We're going to add to the start frame. We're going to then jump down. If that makes sense. So like, so start frame, this is a really bad example, this one, because it comes straight in. Okay, here we go. So if start frame is here is 3791, and we've checked here, so we're saying while this difference is not 1, so it's not 1 here, we just want to keep going down basically until it is.
I can't even find that little squiggle on my keyboard.
Oh right. Just put, you can put equals 0. That's another option, because when it hits 1, it's not going to be. But yeah, you could copy it. Oh wait, do you want me to write it for you? I don't know. It will be somewhere.
Maybe you could paste it in WhatsApp.
Where do you want it, in the Zoom chat?
Or in the Zoom chat. Yeah, that's fine.
There you go.
Thank you.
So while that's not equal to 1, we want to just go down to the next row and do the same check again. So it's a loop. It does loop. It will keep checking something. So it's going to keep checking this. So how do we go to the net? How do we so if it's looking at 3, whatever it was, if it was looking at 3,500 to 3,501, how would it then go down to, how do we change it so it then looks at 3,501 to 3,502?
Oh, it needs to go from.
This needs to change, right? We need to change the value of start frame.
It just needs to start at the start frame, but it doesn't need to.
Yeah, it might be a bit confusing that we call it start frame. So let me write it and see if you can. It's that. So basically, the value of start frame will go up by 1 every time. It'll go up until it hits 1, and then then we know what. Then we actually want start frame plus 1 as the answer. So until it hits that. And then basically it will end. And then you've got a value. The value of start frame is actually the one that we want. So you want start frame. We could just print it. Can we just print it? Okay, so I've created a thing called mum follows. So actually, this is the answer. That's given us 3501. Yeah. Basically, yeah, which is the answer, because that's, you remember it, she looked like 1 frame later. Basically, what it's done here is so it's saying while, it's just that we've got a really annoying example here. Let me look at, actually, let me do row 2 instead of row 1, because row 1's just got a bad example. Okay, so we've done it with row 2. So row 2 was from 3791 up to 4054. Okay. So what it's going to do is look in, can I open this as well somewhere? Ah, nice. So what it's going to do is look at row 3791, which should have been, so look, that started, which we've got, 3791. And it's going to start looking from here. It's already, first it checks that it's a 0, because we know then it's a new mum isn't looking already, which is done. And then it's going to basically say while the difference while the difference between this and this, so the start frame to start frame plus 1 is not 1. I felt stupid. Is not 1, then add a number to start frame. So now start frame becomes 3792, and it will just keep doing it in loops. It's like a for loop. It will just keep looping and checking this. And as soon as this condition hits, it ends. And then what I've done is the value of start frame. We've got a new value of start frame at that point. Wait, have we got that right? Let me check. So it turns into a 1. So we've got it. It's printed 3906 here. And yeah, we're off by 1. Oh wait, sorry, mum frame. Yeah, mum follow 3907. Great. So it got to 3906. It got to 3906. It did the check and it found that it was 1 at 3906. Yeah. So it stopped. So it didn't do this. It didn't add 1. So start frame just stayed at 3906, and then it ends because it satisfied the condition. And then what we've done is I've just saved that plus 1 because it's the next frame as the mum follow. So that's what it's done. Yeah. So that's printed that number. Does that make sense? Let's do that.
Yeah.
We've got to
That's
find
very complicated.
Sorry. Yeah, it's a bit. It's a new. If you need to the while loop idea, the while loops are kind of the weirdest, I think, to get your head around as well. They can be a bit funny, a bit odd. So yeah, that's just for a single row. We're just looking at a specific one there. There is the issue of if it never hits 1. So if the mum never looks.
I guess you want it to end at the end of the matrix. You don't want it to keep going on and on and on.
Yeah, you want it to end here, actually. You want it to end when it hits the end frame for the episode, right? Yeah.
Is there something you can put in for that?
Yeah, I'm just thinking how to do that. So if the matrix...
and then, I don't know, else if, or?
You know what we can do, actually? We can actually put an and if... Let me just test this. So I think if you do start frame to end frame of follow column is greater than 0. We could do that. We can say, because yeah, does that make, okay, so we're checking that the mum isn't at 0. We're checking that the mum's at 0 at the start, but we can also check that between, oh, sorry, that's bad. Sorry. Let's check that the sum, sorry. The sum of matrix. Wait, can you do that? Yeah, great. Start frame 3906. Yeah, cool. Yeah, she comes in there. There's 109 of them. Okay, great. So you can basically, does that make sense? I'm saying and check that the sum of all the values in the mum's column between the start and the end frame are greater than 0. Because if there's 0, it means the mum's never looked. So as long as it's above 0, you know the mum has looked at the puppet.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that does that check, and then it checks that, and it's so we do a double and in here to check both these things, and if that satisfies, then we can do the while loop. That's probably the simplest. I think that's the simplest way to do it. So just check those 2 things, and then it'll run. So it should still. Oh, hang on, I've got an error. Oh, I missed off sorry, I missed off a bracket. 1, 2 brackets. Cool. Yeah.
Matrix, platform, end frame, follow, call.
I'm going to give you one to put in here yourself. So once you've got this mum follow, how do you work out the time? Let's call, if you call it, we'll call it follow latency or something. Call it that. How would you work out that time? So the time it took for the mum to look.
Mine's got a weird error.
Okay. Do you want to share? Do you want to share the screen?
I will share it with everybody.
It doesn't mention parenthesis in the error, does it?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, it does. That's what I had. Have you got two? Have you got two there?
Yeah, I just put them in, I'm sure. Let me double check.
Yeah. So it's just going to be just check the numbers of open and closing brackets.
29.
Let's make this a bit bigger so I can see. Yeah, I've got two. Oh, yeah, I have got two.
Mm. Oh. End.
It looks like it's the same to me.
Have you got enough ends, Bexy?
Sorry?
I have more than enough ends.
I know that's some of mine. And the squiggly, is a squiggly in the right place?
I will show you guys.
No. Do you want to look at it, Crystal? You can try and diagnose. God. Oh, I told you what line 32. I can't see. Oh, wow.
While diff. Oh, you've got a bracket at the front of diff, so you need to take that off. Just at the front of diff.
Let's see if it works now. Yay.
It's quick. Your new computer's super quick. Nice.
Thank you, Crystal. This is why I keep you around.
God, that was tiny. I was like.
Amazing. Oh, wait, let me share again. Can you just change, just for the purposes of this, Bexy, can you just change this and these values to row 2? Because we're going to, this first one was weird, like the mum looks immediately after one frame. Just for our testing purposes here, I'm just going to use I'm just using row 2, so we're looking at this episode.
Okay.
We'll get a more interesting number. Just for now, we're going to replace this, and we're going to loop through every row and just replace this, and then it's done, actually. Yeah, but let's just, see if you can just work out at the bottom here what the actual, the latency is, how long it's taken the mum to follow. You've got your two values now from when the baby started. Oh, actually, oh, no. No. That's not going to work. Yeah, we need to change. Well, can I just suggest something? We change something because you're going to need to use the start frame, right? You're going to need to use this as the mine thing, which you could refer back to this table. But it's kind of nice that it's called start frame. I think it's a nice name. So instead of us, because we've changed start frames. By the time you've run this with row 2, the start frame has become 3906 because that's when the mum starts looking at 3907. That's where the while statement stops. Let's stop from changing the value. So let's say that after the if condition, let's create a different variable called I don't know, check row, and we're going to make that we'll start it as the value of start frame, and then we'll use that instead. So start frame never change. We're going to never change start frame, so we can keep that. And let's change all of these to our check row everywhere after it that it says start frame. Does that make, well, you'll see when we run it what that's done. So I've got an error. So yeah, 6 done that yet. Cool. Yeah, it's better. You started typing something to work out the following latency. You might have to comment it out. What you get out. and just see if that works, because now your start frame should be back at what the actual start frame was. It shouldn't have changed. And your check row is the one that's changed.
Yeah, stop frame to stop frame.
Oh, nice. I'm going to be doing the systematic review stuff with Celia. That's cool.
Oh, yay. Well done.
Me and Cassie, both of us. Nice.
That'd be good though. It means that you get like a bit of help for both.
That was one of the requirements on this Anna Freud's application, was to have had experience doing systematic reviews. So
is that what we had an email about the other day? From...
Yeah, but it's 20 hours, quite a lot, isn't it? It's 20 hours a week.
That's good though.
Is that like shared now? Is it 10 hours each, or is it still 20 hours each?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I think she just emailed and said we'll set up a Zoom call to go through it. So it should be interesting. It's on like anxiety, it's on perinatal anxiety and how it impacts socio-emotional development. So it's like right up the street. So it should be cool. It should be nice.
That's great.
Yeah. I need to go for more jobs with people I know, so they don't get rejected. Cool. Is that working?
Any more time? I swear you have more time in your week than me.
I do. I don't. What, me?
Yeah. Do you not sleep? What do you do?
I do too much. Way too much. I'm not working, am I? So it's yeah.
Yeah, but you do a lot of volunteering and everything.
Yeah, but I just carved out the time for that, and yeah, it's only a few hours. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So that's yeah. Is it working?
Yeah, I don't know how it's worked though.
What do you mean? You've as in?
I don't know what putting check row in has changed.
Done. So what have you got in your workspace now? You got a value for check row.
Yeah.
Well, you got a value for start frame.
Yeah.
Basically,
it's the same.
They're the same.
No, it's the same as yours.
Okay, cool. So yeah, basically, because what we want when we work out this following the difference, the latency, we're going to check the mum. We're going to check the row where the mum started following, and we're going to minus that. We're going to do that minus the start row, right? The start of when the baby started looking at it.
Yeah.
Basically, the reason we had to do this is because we were adding 1 before to the start row every time to run this while loop. So the start frame number was changing. So we lost our value that we needed to make this calculation.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Parked that value. So we've created the start frame value as this start frame. And then we've just said, like, let that equal another variable called check row, and we're going to use this variable instead. We're going to start changing this one instead. So start frame never changes because we need to use that later on. So that's why check row has gone up to 3906, because that's the one that's now going up until with the while loop until the mum's value hits 1.
Okay.
So the mum follow is always going to be 1 above the check row. Always.
You just deleted something by mistake.
Me? Did I?
Yeah, you just yeah. There you go.
That was an interesting error. Half your code is missing. Yeah, does that make sense as to why we've had to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had to keep the start. We didn't want to change that start frame, so just it's a number start frame, right? So we just made something else that we can then change and keep start frame as what it was.
Yeah, that's good. I might have to go in a minute because I need to eat something.
Okay.
If we don't finish this today, we could do it next week.
Yeah, we're really close to it.
Okay.
You got how long? Could you do 5 minutes?
5 minutes is fine.
Right,
I'm not going to die in 5 minutes, or I might do.
Okay, so follow latency. So we're going to work out we're going to quickly work out the one minus the other. We're going to work out the mum's follow frame minus the infant start frame. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got to think the mum follow. I'm going to minus the infant, the start frame, which is the infant's one. And then if you want the time, you've got to divide it by 3, because it's 50 frames per second. And if you run that, you should get a number. So it took the mum to 2.32 seconds to follow that look.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's instead of follow latency, let's put them into a table. So they're going to go into the end +1 row, column 1. Just because now we're going to add all these other loops. We're going to be loads of them. Gosh, I need to create it. Sorry, we need to create up here. Let's create up here at the top. I'm gonna create a follow latency thing of zeros with just 1 row and 1 column for now. And now we should have, now you've got like a nice little matrix where it's gonna, at the end of each of these episodes, it's just gonna add a new row with the time that we need. At the end of all this, we're also, okay, so, okay. So now we're just going to wrap all of this in a for loop to go through these, and that's it, I think. We're going to wrap a for loop. So we're going to for loop around all of this. So instead of our start frame is going to become dynamic. Our start and end frames are going to go through these basically. So instead of this being a 2 or a 1 with the row, we're going to define it up here with a range. So we're just going to go through the rows. Okay, so from the first, well, let's call it, I don't know what you call it, I don't know, episode row. We'll start at row 1, and we need to go up to the final row. Okay, so how do we need to get number 32 here? How do we get that back? Oops. No, this is, where's this one length? This one we do need length. No, it's because I typed the wrong thing. So frames. Yeah, so end will actually give us the final value.
So length.
Which actually, the reason that works in our other ones is because the column 14, the very final value, is our final row number. It's our frame number. It's the mum frames. So yeah, we should use length. Actually, that's why it does. That's why it works. So we do need to use length. This one. So for that, until the length of episode frames. Our start frame is going to be the row, episode row. So like it will start at 1, column 1, and our end frame that we're going to use is going to be, so it's going to be like 1, so it'll start at 1, it'll be like 1 to 1 1 to 1 2 as our start and end. And then when this whole loop's done, it will go up, this episode row will go up to 2. So it'll go up to 2, and it will check this one. Wow, that's it. That's the whole thing. Amazing. Nice. What you called it? Follow. Oh wait.
Oh, I've got 0. So yeah.
I've got 0. Quick. Sorry, back to me hungry.
That's okay.
Start frame 3500, end frame that. Follow latency is that. It's because of this. Sorry, it's because every time. Sorry, it's for every loop we've created. We've turned follow latency back into a zeros. Okay. Sorry, that's got to go before the for loop. Sorry. Always create your zeros thing before you start looping through. That's why it's good to cut through. Hey.
Yeah, that's better.
Nice. And then we just, at the end of that, I would just delete the first row of follow latency. So follow latency row 1, all columns, even though there's only one, equals blank. Done. And then you can do average follow time equals, I think it's a mean. I think you can do mean. I think you just do mean of follow latency.
All of it.
1.53. Let's just put that into Excel and just double check. Wow, that's quick. We just created a whole thing. I like that. It's a nice one.
This was really good.
Yeah, it's a nice one. I thought it was a really nice one.
Can you just scroll up a bit so I can't see why my
1.5.
first line's not working?
Which one? Sorry, back to?
Line 27.
What does line 27?
Line 26. There we go. Like it says, it's not the same.
If you want to share it, feel free.
Okay, that's probably why.
Definitely working here now, so that's good. Nice. So that, and eventually what you would do is wrap all of this in a for loop and create another table with all the average follow times for all your mums, and you loop through all of the matrices and just do that, and then it's done. So literally one more for loop wrap around and it's done. And all of your follow switch the 8. So actually, like, you can really, all you need to do is switch these two, 8 and 1, and now you can look at the baby follow times. So the baby, there you go, average baby is 0.3.
There you go.
For some reason it's not working for me.
Yeah, do you want to share your screen? You sure you still want to go through it manually on paper?
No.
If you just pull your command window down a little bit, I'll be able to see, just double check everything. I think I see what's happened. Thank you.
Sorry.
Now let's see if it wants to work. Yay, it's worked.
Nice. So
Thank
you've
you.
got 1.53 as the average follow time. You should have, did you put that one in the bottom, the average follow time?
No, I missed that bit. Let's.
There's a really nice function in Matlab just called mean, and you can literally just mean a whole matrix and take all the values in the matrix and find the mean.
So follow.
Median and stuff. Yeah, they can do the median as well. It's quite cool. To do standard deviations and all sorts of stuff.
So do you even need SPSS anymore?
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, it'd be really nice to throw in loads of your, I don't know how many, have they got the mum codes done, Crystal? Has anyone coded the mum videos? You don't know, okay. Because our ones, Emily, like most of the mum ones would have been done for us. It's just the stranger, so it's nice. Emily should sent us the mum codes so we can just create all the matrices and loop through everything, which is quite nice. So might be like, check with Ira.
I will check with Ira because I'm doing on a stranger, but if there's the mum, because if so,